Discord, so I'll post that.
Content of this meeting is being sent to YouTube. And then once the live stream actually starts. Oh, hearing myself. We are all on YouTube now. Okay, the link to the live stream is in the chat. Which, based on the way my YouTube live looks right now, it's a little meta of us. Okay, I'm gonna give it a minute or two. I don't have any cool background music or anything like I did last time. The production quality has gone way down, but hello everyone. I'm Amber. This is Officers with Amber. And here we are, week 3. So starting basically, oh, we good, Lily?
Yeah, it's like delayed, like your voice. I just heard the production quality is going way down, and you said that like 30 seconds ago.
Yes, you're in this meeting and then there's going to be a lag from
Yeah.
so you can leave the Zoom and then just text me the updates. Is that cool?
Yeah.
Perfect. Appreciate you so much. Hopefully there's not a double lag on the YouTube, but we're going to find out. Okay. Anyways, starting from the top. Welcome to Office Hours with Amber. I'm Amber. This is Office Hours. Essentially, what Office Hours with Amber is a 12-month, it is a one New Year's resolution to learn new things, split into 12 months. Each month I have a different goal. This month's goal is dynamic arrays and learning more about that. The whole point of Office Hours with Amber is a huge case study to see if I can completely transform my technical understanding of Excel and Microsoft products in 1 calendar year and trying to catch up on the impending tech debt that I am accruing. So week 1, I started researching, YouTubing, ChatGPTing more information about dynamic arrays. Week 2, I applied what I had learned to one of the problems I was having at one of my clients, our pricing tool. And then this week, I'm going to be taking all of the things that I did with that dynamic pricing tool and going to present it to the sweet Liana. Thank you so much for being here. Introductions coming soon. But the point of this week is to get iterative, constructive feedback to hopefully broaden my horizons so that I can create the best tool and learn as much as I can. So without further ado, we are joined today by Liana Garish. She is the founder of Rate My Excel, and she could probably do a much better introduction than what I'm about to do, but I'm going to take a stab at it. So essentially what that is, Rate My Excel, is a way for organizations to have a benchmark test for their incoming new hires on how well they are proficient in Excel. I think that was English, maybe. And my mouse isn't working. Fantastic. Oh, uh-oh. Here we go. Here we go. My mouse is not working. There we go. Okay. I met Liana back in 2023 at the Microsoft Excel World Championships. She was more than welcoming to me. I was floundering to have any kind of hint of understanding of what I was even doing at that point, but she welcomed me in with open arms, invited me to the Excelopolis Discord. And if you don't know, she does a weekly training session where we come together and train for the Microsoft Excel World Championships with all these different cases. It's got big vibes. Everything is very fun. That's what inspired me to put Office Hours with Amber in the Discord because she's really shown how many cool things you can do in it. I digress. Ranting. Problem solver, dim slayer, bringer of good energy, Liana Garish. Thank you so much for being here today. How are you doing?
Thanks for having me. Great intro, and hopefully you can hear me okay. I had to switch up audio stuff, but yeah, doing pretty good.
Brilliant. No, you sound great. Things are great. Before we even get started on me, how are your month goals starting? I know this month you're doing Tasmania Fitness Mania, 6 training heights. How's that going?
I think it's going good. It started slow, but I've got 3 out of my 6 training hikes done. I think I'll get to 5 out of 6, so that'll have to be good enough for Australia.
Yeah, that's awesome. And how long is the hike that you're about to do? You said it was like multiple days, right?
Yeah, it's a 9-day hike in Tasmania, and the distance isn't super hard, but it's probably going to be pretty rainy and wet. And so I think it's more the conditions and the elevation that make it a challenge.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that uh is between you and God. I don't know. I think the whatever amount of mountain and elevation would look at me and I would just crumble at the start of it. So more power to you. That's insane. But I'm really excited for you to be able to like that trip sounds like so much fun. So I'm excited to see what pictures and videos come out of it. Okay. So essentially, let me duke out my screens here. So today I'm going to show you my pricing breakouts tool. I'll kind of go over the objective of it, the general lay of the land. I think in future months, I should probably send the tool before the live stream so you can actually see the guts of it before. But we're
Nah,
going to
let's do
just
it live.
perfect. And so as I was making it today, I was like, oh God, because you know when like you use an Excel you can make it look ugly and like not understandable. So I've had a lot of creative guilt today. But essentially, there's going to be three primary things that I'm trying to look for during our interactions today. Is one, does the tool make sense and is it straightforward? Two, how could I use dynamic arrays better or more efficiently than I am currently? And then three, is there any other external ideas that you have to make the tool better comma, 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 etc. And then afterwards, I'm going to we'll take 20, 30 minutes on that. And then the remainder of the time, I encourage everyone in the chat on YouTube to submit questions. And then I also have some fun questions that I think are fun, or at least selfishly, I'm interested to find out the answer. But without further ado, I'm going to share my screen and hope all the technology works. Okay. Can you see it? And is it large enough?
Yeah, that looks good.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Okay. So essentially, there's going to be the info tab, which I'm going to see if I can. I'm going to change some of the settings. Okay, it sees both of us on Zoom. Okay, perfect. So essentially the info tab for someone who's brand new to the tool, we'll go over the instructions of that, not specifically relevant for you, but for the future of, because the whole point of making this tool better is so that I don't have to do it eventually. So really trying to automate myself out of this process. So essentially on the bottom of the tabs, we've got quote history, which this has running log of every quote I've ever done ever. And this is where the eventual quotes go. Then there's pre-guts and new guts. And so that is I'm going to show you the evolution of how far it's come since day one, a year and a half ago. But yeah, we'll go from there. So the true objective of this tool is to provide our potential new clients with a price quote that's based on their project variables. So we, as a beverage co-manufacturing plant, we get all sorts of different shapes and sizes and derivations of what could possibly be done in our building, from water, milk, energy drinks, soda, tea, it could be anything. And they can come in all sorts of different can sizes and types and whatever. So essentially, the history of this tool looked like this, which you might think, oh my gosh, cute, she's fun. Over here, there's all their application details. And then this is where it gets real chaotic, is there's like 5 primary sections and they expand and contract based on all this information. Now, it might look very structured, but there's so many ways that this can completely break itself, and it's also humongous for no reason. So I got so overwhelmed that I trimmed it down to the bare guts, and that's why this one's called guts. So this, no grid lines, disgusting. So essentially, what happens here, we'll hide this too. Same kind of vibe of the quote information comes over here. Then the very bare bones of what materials are needed, what production information is needed, what overhead looks like, all of that here. But even that is kind of overwhelming to anyone who's to walk in here and say, like, yes, I need this or this or this. So you can kind of yes, no, anything that you want to put on the bill of materials. But even that, there's so much opportunity for someone to double charge for something, or you got to get a lot of things correct. So drum roll, please. That's where new guts happens. So she has been minimized to essentially one screenshot. Instead of any scrolling around, you can accomplish everything in one place. So what I did Again, similar vibes of the application information all comes in over here. This light is creating a glare that I cannot read. Anything that is in yellow essentially is an editable cell. So here I can toggle through and see different application information that comes from our website. Then you can start to make some choices. These three link to everything else. Everything else is just kind of bare information. A lot of the things on this page don't work because I fixed them today. So we're going to go through it. Primarily, something that impacts a lot of stuff on here is we've got 12, basically whatever can size. So a lot of the times when we're on calls, someone will say, I want 12 ounce sleek, and a 16-ounce can. The problem is toggling through and knowing what materials go to what can sizes is kind of difficult. So here I can toggle through, and this is a dynamic array based on like the filter. We can go into the guts of it. I'm going to show you how it works, and then we're going to show you some of the guts. So essentially, I could say 12-ounce sleek, and I want to produce, let's say, 4,000 of them. Here, the can will only come up with things that are 12-ounce compatible. So let's say, for instance, a blank can. The label then only goes to blank labels. Select that. We love. Deposit cans are the only option. And some trays. Delish. We love. So all of these are based on only things that are compatible, which is nice. There's some that are still very much blank. And then here, based on like our filling rates, I think there's an opportunity here to be able to do a choose of whatever price bracket or like volume bracket it's in. But essentially, everything hinges off of this. Then there's some other business that happens down here. All of this kind of comes back together and comes up with the quote schwa that gets copy and pasted into the quote history. So currently, I hate the part of the learning process is doing things ugly and bad before you can do them really nicely. So preliminarily, any thoughts, comments, concerns on this page before I dive into the guts?
Yeah, so the way this will work is someone will fill out, say someone has like a great drink idea, like they want to do an energy drink. So they'll fill out an initial application like on your website and kind of say, this is what I want to do. And then will you do like a call with that company and kind of talk through like the nitty-gritty as far as materials and other choices?
Yep, absolutely. And so that's exactly the process. So we end up sending them the form on our to our website that gives them kind of all of this guts or the mild guts. They fill it out. We schedule an intro call, and on the intro call, I use this to kind of take notes and fill in the details to make sure I have everything ready. And then afterwards, I provide them with like one number quote that just says, for this $1.50, you can get all of this stuff included at this rate. But yeah, exactly right.
Okay. And then what's the weirdest drink request you've seen so far?
Canned milk was definitely a out of left field for me. And a lot of the time, because our facility has such low minimum order quantities, um, Harry Gross, thank you so much for coming. Lily, also so impressed. Sorry, I just remembered that there's a chat function. But the milk was crazy because so to give a little context on beverage co-manufacturing in the United States is usually the minimum order quantity is like 40,000 cans. And if you're just getting started with a beverage, going from 0 to 40,000 is kind of insane. So that's where we came in and we started doing 4,000 cans as a minimum to kind of create a smaller barrier to entry for a lot of these new coming brands. So we partner with a mobile canner, and so they kind of come in as needed, and they bring us a lot of clients that are kind of trying to get their foot in the door. And so because we have the low MOQ, that's a lot of creative ideas, and we like to be the place to foster hope in that way because it is really exciting because things like Poppy and Olipop are kind of new beverages in the space, and so it's nice to be able to see new players. And so that's where we take a lot of pride, is helping the next Olipop or whoever become the next Coke. So that is the little sappy backstory on what we're doing here.
That's cool.
Yes. Um, okay. So I'm gonna take you on a little journey into the back end. So some outstanding items that I would need to mention first is based on what comes into this space, this choice that's made here, it's going to fill in the details with lead times, orderable quantities, costs, and totals. I did not get a chance there, and I will openly take feedback on what you think the most effective way to bring that in is. So we'll get to that in a sec. Um, and also there's some back end stuff I do want to talk about the array of array problems. And the cool thing by doing this is it was a really easy way to see how many quotes I'm missing. So for instance, 12-ounce sleek, we've got every type of material all quoted out. But then for 19.2 ounce, we're missing like lids and trays. And I was like, oh, that's like a pretty specific thing I should have. So I digress. Now we go to the guts. And this is really what took me the most time. And for consistency's sake, this I've changed all of these numbers to be equals rand. So there's nothing too sparkly happening there. And all of our suppliers cutely named supplier 1 through 4. But yeah, so what I realized is the real ticket or the real sauce of being able to use dynamic arrays is having really sturdy data sets to work off of. And as a small business, we don't have none of that. So it's a lot of creation. So there's some Power Query business happening in the background from like PDFs we get from our suppliers. So fancy footwork. Over here, this is where the dynamic arrays really pop off. And I'm going to zoom all the way in. Let's give her some room to breathe. So essentially what's happening here, and I don't think I did this super effectively, so feel free to roast me to an absolute crisp here. We've got a filter of all of the product sizes in the category of can that are spilling out as column headers. And then anything in typed can, like the unique filter of can types in this size, spills out below. I was talking about this a little earlier, as if I wanted to make this dynamic, but as soon as I make it dynamic, it values out, which I know is an array of array problems. So I'm going to open the door for communication here.
Oh, yeah, like I know whenever I try and do a filter on multiple criteria, I have to put all my criteria in curly braces in there. So it searches sort of like if you've ever done that before with like old-timey sum if formulas or something to try and
Yeah.
put jam multiple things at once. Um, but it's kind of harder when you're pointing it to an array because I think the only time I've been able to do that so far is like do like a text split on the array and then concatenate it and put it in quotes and stuff and wrap it in curly braces. But it's like, I feel like there's got to be an easier way to do that because that can't be what Excel wants you to do for multiple criteria.
And that's kind of what I was thinking. On that as well is I almost was, I'm going to show you the reason why I put it in this format first, and then we're going to come back to this. So in NuGuts, the way that these data validations work, let me show you. Basically, what it's doing is an X lookup. Let me see if it'll go to, oh yeah, nasty. So let me go copy paste that and then I'll show you what it's doing, or at least show the audience what it's doing. I'm just gonna take a screenshot. That's fine. Because whenever I try to mess with the like that in there, it completely changes everything. So I'm
Right.
trying to tread light. Okay. Essentially what it's doing is trying to look for this value, basically 12-ounce sleek in that row. So it's like X lookuping this and then referencing the dynamic of this area.
Ooh.
which is a little spooky. I've never done that before. I found a really nice YouTube video that told me to do that, but I also didn't love it. And that's the reason why it's in this format right now. But I almost was thinking earlier today on doing like I don't know how the data validation would really shake out if I did a pivot by. And I like using pivot bys just to be able to organize information of like having the filtered list and being able to filter on the latest quote. Because another function of this here is that it's got different dates. So I can just kind of append on new documents of the latest estimate I've ever gotten. And the way that it's happening right now is definitely not that. Because when you come in here, it might be broken now because I just broke it. One moment. What's your take on the pivot by while I duke around with this?
Like, would a pivot by work in data validation?
Yeah.
I've never tried it. My heart's telling me no, but I mean, you never know with data validation. I also wonder if maybe like a filter would work for that as well.
A filter on what?
Like instead of doing pivot by in your data validation, maybe like grab your list of values with filter.
So doing like so potentially. I think putting in, well, this does kind of come out to, let's give this a whack. We'll just replace S1 with, oh, that's, I'm just gonna throw that in there just to see if it actually works because I thought from the jump I was gonna do that. And then I took a very decorative path after because that wasn't working.
Okay, that's a bummer.
It is because I feel like, but that was because I was trying to put arrays that were not in vertical list form.
Okay.
Hmm. She's not liking that, which is unfortunate because I feel like I would love to not have any back end nonsense back there because it's not, because having all of this, like this sitting here is just creating opportunity for people to like go fuck it up, for lack of a better words. And the additional problem of having this not dynamically linked to this list up here is that if, let's say I was to get like 6 new can types, it wouldn't spill all the way that way and creating a new maintenance problem for myself.
Right.
Okay. We're going to think about that for a little bit. I'm going to think on that. I'm going to come back around this way. There was another question I had. Well, okay. So generally, latest price. Okay. Different question. So in here, to be able to get only, I've got a helper column that's looking for the latest quoted price. So I think I just have to add a filter for the latest price, I'm guessing, right?
Yeah.
Am I being dumb? Okay, let's just do it live. Which also, this was a huge, let's do equals Y. Of course, I'm missing something. Okay, we've solved one problem. Fantastic.
Hey.
Great. Okay. That's actually really great that we brought it up. Okay. That one's off the list. Words of wisdom on sort by. So how familiar are you with sort by? Do you like using it?
Yeah, I like it, but I'm still a little bit bewildered by it. So I don't use a lot of the optional arguments, but I will do like a sort this by that.
I also little bewildered, but I wanted, so I wanted to sort in cost, like price. Yep. My words are coming soon. Like price, like cheapest to most expensive. And I think intuitively, I tried earlier. So like this array, I want sorted by, and then I was thinking per unit. Intuitively, I would think that's a thing. And then I would put in ascending because I'm not bad at Excel. And then that just completely didn't like it.
Yeah, I think your second argument, that cost per unit, I think you need to make it that like copy and paste your whole unique filter and then replace filter view with cost per unit. That way it like has two like columns next to each other.
Yep, that's it. I was hoping it wouldn't be that because
Because
I,
that's gnarly.
yeah, like every time I start, um, yeah, every time, oh, yes, I do need to protect sheets yes. Um, every time I start making Excel functions, I'm like, okay, we're going to do it so basic. It's going to be so good and everyone's going to be so proud. And then it turns into this rat's nest every single time. Yep. We're just going to put her on a second row so I can breathe. Okay, we're filtering the cost. That's what you said?
Yeah.
And of course it works just like that, just like magic. Brilliant. Okay, we've solved two problems.
And
It's
then
crazy. Oh, go for it.
Harry had a good comment about using let to simplify things.
Mm,
So it's kind of like the decision you'll want to make is, if I start including lets, will that help people using this or will it further complicate things? But yeah, this could be a good let situation.
I 100% agree. And let, I think, is my April month. And I think that is where I'm going to use that as an iterative, like as I learn, because I saw in Full Stack Modeler, let me look at the funny thing is like I'm trying to like really lean into just dynamic arrays and test the bounds and limits of it. And the problem is let and lambda are just so good at solving everything that it's like, ugh. So the nice thing is I can unwind my tech debt that I'm building now in the let and lambda months, which I'm going to leave notes for myself, little treasure trails, so that when I get there, I'll be like, oh, remember that thing way back there? Creating lore for these months, kind of like the Lana Banana situation. It's like, oh, do you remember pricing breakouts? We're back. Okay, but this is fantastic. I'm glad that I've solved two of the problems. Okay, back end spill problem. Okay, back to I was in Full Stack Modeler earlier and I got three options. There was how familiar with the map function are you? Because I am 0% familiar with it.
I feel like whenever I try and use map, I get upset and I just replace it with a scan or a reduce.
Okay, so let me get your opinions on scan and reduce. When would you use one or the other? Like, what are triggers in your heart that make you want to lean towards those?
Yeah, so like I always try and get to a reduce because it has everything in one cell. It kind of just says, here's your answer. But a lot of times, if you start with reduce, you'll get an answer or no answer and think that's way off. So then I'll replace it with a scan so I can kind of see how it's iterating my logic in each cell and then bring it back to a reduce.
I'm going to take that and put it in the backlog of things I need to go learn. I think with the dynamic arrays month, I really pushed myself to try and use new functions that I'm not as familiar with. And then just like in the competitions, it was like, oh, it's crunch time. We're just going to use a bunch of filters and uniques because those feel good.
Yeah.
But yes, those are next on the list. I'm gonna put those up here. Okay, brilliant. Um, One more question. Okay, so separate question. Now that I'm using dynamic arrays to create these kind of validation spots. In terms of bringing in the supplemental information here, I know that this references at least one exact column, or like I know this comes from exactly one place or one or more places, pretty much familiar places. So, what is there any dynamic array functions that can be used to fill in this information? Or what are your words of wisdom there?
Yeah, so you know your can size. So how would you calculate supplier lead time? Is that so you know what supplier's chosen? Is that off to the left?
So the nice thing is the lead time is all of those things you just saw are their own columns on this page. So it's I feel like we're like an X lookup or a SUMIF away from some of these things happening. But
Yeah.
yes, so it would be just like a finding a bit of information. Yeah.
Yeah, so that seems like an X lookup then. If you can just say, hey, I have this can size, grab me the lead time for it, assuming there's one can size per row.
Yes. Other question is there an so you know with some ifs there's multiple criteria. With X lookup, can you this is probably a very Googleable question. Is there any way to do like look for this in this column and this in this column, like a multiply criteria X lookup? Or do I need to make a helper
Oh.
column with both of those?
Yeah, I don't know if this is the best way, but I'll do like a helper column that concats two values if I just want to look it up on that. But lately I've just been going straight to filter for cases like that.
Mm. Which is where these came from, which makes sense. So let's do prod material lead time of you're brilliant. Thank you so much for this. Prod material. Oh, where I could remember my own things that would help. Material. While I ticky-tacky through here, we're gonna go to my first question, which is la 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 la. Which one do I want to go with first? When it comes to building professional networks, what are qualities and values you gravitate towards in others?
Oh, sort of like what type of people do I like to have in my network?
Yeah.
That's an interesting question. I think it's probably not great from a networking perspective, but I just like to network with people that I think are fun.
That's
So
fair.
yeah, that's probably not good for optimizing your career prospects, but that's my approach.
No, I feel that because I think much like subordinates I've had in the past, if you have a good attitude, anything is really possible. Like any if you are like good attitude is usually an indicator of like openness and willingness to learn and grow. So like you can coach anyone into being something. And I think those are usually the folks that I find the most like taking crazy ideas towards and they're like, you know what? Hell yeah. So no, I agree with you there. Okay, while I start ticking again, um, do you have a random interaction, quote, or instance that changed the trajectory of your path?
Um, yeah, one time I was interviewing for this job and we were talking about macros. I was like 23. I thought I knew everything about Excel. And then the guy just mentioned that you could use macros and to like control, Internet Explorer, Outlook, PowerPoint, Word, Access. And that was just like a moment where I was like, I can do so many more things in Excel than I thought. And I ended up not working there. That place was like a tax code interpretation shop, so I'm kind of glad. but I that one offhand sentence like really expanded what I could do with Excel.
Wow. That is it. Let's say I'm gonna stop sharing my screen while we kind of chit chat and I think around in the background. Um, but same thing with Danielle. It was no, Danielle had mentioned she did her presentation with a lot of dynamic arrays, and then Josh Aronoff had said the most impactful thing that has changed my life is that you can bring named range. Well, there's like you can make dynamic named ranges, and then additionally, you can bring named ranges into Power Query. And I have Lily, my sweet client, we were working on a project and there was this situation where I didn't want her table that she was adjusting to be like a table with like headers and all that stuff and
Yeah.
whatever. I wanted it to be kind of looser and less rigid. And but I need it. So she was having to copy and paste everything to this other tab to be built as a table to flow into other stuff. So having the dynamic named ranges come into Power Query so it all flows together, life changing. So it is kind of funny when like someone will say something offhand that like I should have kind of known already, but like didn't completely changes the trajectory of something.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Okay. Next question I have for you. Um, this is, oh, what is the biggest thing you're looking forward to this year, personally or professionally?
Personally, I've got a couple of trips coming up. I've got the Australia one we talked about, and then also Japan, and then Spain and Italy in the fall. So I'm really excited to get out there and do a little bit of travel this year.
Oh, wow. Yeah, no, that's wicked. What made you want to, what made you interested in Japan? Is there like any business there or is it just like full for fun?
Just mostly for the food. I was there for like a week, end of 23, and I knew I wanted to go back. So this trip will just be like to hit a couple new areas and do some activities that I didn't get a chance to do before, like hike up Mount Fuji and do some other hikes and stuff in the countryside.
That's wicked. I think there as soon as I was old enough and had generally enough money to be able to travel, it was 2020. And then since then it's been like the woes of like business ownership and stuff. So really I'm just utilizing Excel conferences as a reason to like keep traveling and getting outside. Um
Smart.
so it's like let's just get a little bit of a write-off while we're at it. Um but oh my gosh, how fun. Uh Separately, are there for Rate My Excel? So this, forgive my ignorance on this. So Rate My Excel is kind of primary business or consulting, or how does all of what does your professional work life look like right now? Like the percentages between things.
Yeah, so I do like I think primary is consulting. I've got a lot of clients that I help with models and automate things, and then Rate My Excel is a side project. It's just like a
Mm,
passion project where one day I'd like there to be a good way to interview candidates that's like standard for Excel skills, and so that's something. It's sort of like a dream of mine for Excel assessments to become more popular for interviews.
absolutely. I need to do it because I think I'm gonna preliminarily it's going to be like a jump forward and it's going to be like Amber got 0 points, but preliminarily I feel like I'm like statistically right dead center like average user, but I'll be interested to find out what like where I actually stack up. But in terms of this is like more of a me personal question is in terms of my professional journey, I'm a big fan of letting my work speak for itself. And so I'm not a big marketing, la la. La. And this is also, it's tough with consulting because you can't really talk about specific clients. And thankfully, I own part of one of my clients, so I get to talk about that all I want. But with other clients, it's like they want to protect their image, they don't want to talk about the problems online. So in that venture, how have you like any tips or words of wisdom on client acquisition or continuing to build out a network that you work with?
Yeah, I'm really not a good person for that because I just I've been working with a lot of my clients for going on 10 years now, and a lot of times I think really the only time I get a new client is like a word of mouth referral from an existing one. Finally last year I put up a website that's you spend like an hour on it and you're like, I'll come back to it and make it great one day. And then, here it is 18 months later and it's still the same thing. But I think maybe, focusing on that a little bit more and getting some blog posts out there. And I think that could be an avenue. And then probably if I wanted more business, kind of calling up some clients and being like, hey, can you think of anyone that might need my company's services, I think would be a good move because that kind of gets you in the door and people let their guard down a little bit versus, if it's someone strange, then you're going to vet them a little bit harder and it makes it a little more awkward.
That's super true and helpful to know that at least there's not like some underground network of consultants all finding their clients in this place. The number of times I get told that I should be on Fiverr, I'm like, but I don't want to make $5. But then the rest of me is like, but you could just, it's not bad to have an account open on the off chance someone needs something. Um, but the man, I do this is the subtle side plot of Officers of Amber is this is my only way to really publicly show the skills I am creating. So it's the subtle ploy, but I digress. Ooh, if you could tell Liana 5 or 10 years ago something, what would you tell her? What would she have needed to hear, I guess?
Man, that's a really deep question.
Take some time, sit on it, stew. I'm doing the filter in the background over here and not working the way I thought it was, but I'm gonna go. I think it's because it's because I'm missing a few things. Ugh, I'm so silly. Anyways, I digress. Keep thinking on it. I'm gonna reshare my screen in the meantime.
Okay. Do you ever watch that YouTube show Hot Ones?
Oh yeah, I love that show.
You could almost make this like an Excel version, or you ask your guests like a really tough filter question and then do like the deep dive into their Instagram.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is earlier today I was trying to creep on you on like social media.
Oh
I
yeah.
found nothing. I was like, Leanna Garris isn't even like that, like common of a name, I would
Right, it's not
think.
like an
And
Amber Johnson, yeah.
yeah, I'm Jane Doe out here. There's no finding me. And
Yeah.
so like that's why I've gone by the alias Am Jamber all these years. But yeah, I almost the flip side of it is I feel like you guys under pressure could answer an Excel question no problem, but I like digging into the deeper guts of people. I tried to do that with
Yeah.
Giles, and he was like, "Knock it off, leave me alone." And I was like, "That's fair." So, but yes, Liana 5 or 10 years ago, what did she need to hear, or what would you have like? What would you like to tell her?
I think like just some encouragement that hey, you will eventually get like you will actually pretty quickly get clients for Rate My Excel. So keep at it because that's about 5, 6 years old now. And I spent a year building it and thought I would make this whole thing and it would just be crickets. So that would be encouraging. And then the other thing I would say is that, hey, you've been doing this consulting thing for 10 years and you haven't gotten bored. Um, because that was one concern I had is prior to this, after 18 months to 2 years in a job, I would just be like scratching at the walls trying to get out and do something different. So I think it'd be nice to hear that, hey, in the consulting world, you're doing a lot of problem solving, you're seeing different industries, and it's keeping your attention for once.
That's wicked. Because I also felt the same way about really it's like a subtle what should we be telling Amber at this very moment kind of thing. So it worked both ways. Um, but that's exactly how I used to feel at Anheuser-Busch was every 12 to 18 months, I was like, God, routine is the worst because ADHD does not quite work with routine that way. And I always tried to like automate my way out of all the boring parts so that I could go do like stretch projects. And now
Yeah.
my entire life is a stretch project. So But now it's like managing the overstimulation of like, oh my God, I've bit off so much. I'm an idiot. But that's funny. Well, that is like such an accomplishment too, to say that you've been doing this for 10 years and like all the work you put in that year did go and like was worth it. I connect with that very deeply on like the website thing. And so for the last 2 years, like year and a half, mine has been howdy, welcome to office, like welcome to Peach Profitability. So glad you're here. Under construction, my face. That's it. And I have to start now looking at it as like an opportunity, as like a portfolio. And I think I saw there was a girl on LinkedIn. I saw her profile. I think it was Katy. Um, she had one of the most brilliant websites. And what I realized is like it doesn't have to have like any e-commerce or anything. So, like it's just, hey, here's me, which feels very self-indulgent. I was having a conversation with Eric Ohm the other day about that, and he's like, God, I just don't look looking at my face and hearing my voice. I'm like,
Yeah.
me neither. But unfortunately, everyone's gonna hear me. But anyways, okay. I think I have. If there's anyone in the chat, feel free to leave a question. Harry Gross is popping off, which I love that he comes to these. It just makes me like anytime anyone from the Excel community comes, I'm like, ooh, someone's here. Um, but what, oh, before I get to that question, in terms of all the industries that you kind of worked with and all the consulting, is there kind of a favorite industry or a industry that you're most comfortable with? I think you said you had started in corporate finance. Am I wrong about that? Okay, perfect. But in terms of like which industry are you most comfortable with and which one intrigues you the most?
Yeah, I think I don't like, yeah, I used to work for Intel and GE before that. So I think when I get a client that's like on the industrial side and actually building things, it's familiar and comfortable. But I do like seeing any new industry I like seeing because it's like, how do you make your money? Like some of my clients are like law offices or wealth management, and it's things I'm not really exposed to, or like commercial real estate or even medical type stuff. And it's just for me, it's fascinating to learn anything that's new.
Oh yeah, 100%. The I'm is there any I guess that it's been a bit since like onboarding a lot of new clients, but when you first started working with new industries, how did you weigh out the personal interest and intrigue of learning something new versus how do I provide value to these clients that are relying on me for this expensive consultation or moderately whatever priced consultation?
Yeah, it's tough. Like, I definitely want to keep track of what they're looking for, where their pain points are so I can help. But then I think sprinkle in questions and things I'm curious about along the way. Like one thing I did, it's a little bit shady, but back when I worked in audit, when we do site visits, we tell the head of the facility, like, hey, it's part of the audit, we need a facility tour. And just so we could go around the factory and see how they did stuff. Because for me, it was like a school field trip, just getting to see a completely new thing.
Yeah. That's hilarious. And I don't even have I'm a big fan of putting systems in between me and what I want so I can use it as a crutch to be like, now, yes, I could have come to you and I think you would have been very responsive to it, be like, hey, Liana, I want to get to know you better and talk about Excel. And I think you would have been open to it. But instead,
Right.
I'm like, here's this beautiful, crazy program I've got going on. Would you like to be a part of that? Oh, separate note, did you get anything in the mail this weekend? Any
No, I
packages?
haven't seen anything.
Strange. Okay, there was something
Hmm.
delivered, and I hope not to the wrong address. So, we're gonna look into that later. But a little sneaky peeky. So, and the other thing is now that obviously the cat's out of the bag, I can ship them directly to your house if something went wrong. But as one of the earliest and most consistent adopters of Office Hours with Amber, I am awarding you, bestowing you the sparkliest sneakers. And so
What?
I think it's gonna, and then there's oh yeah. They are just wicked.
What?
I think,
I'm gonna
yeah.
wear those everywhere.
I hope you do. And if I know we were talking about sizes, if they don't end up fitting, let me know. So, well, first thing, if
Okay.
they don't end up end up at your house, let me know. And then two, if they're the
Okay.
wrong size, let me know both. But yes, to represent the sparkle you bring to the community, sparkly sneakers for you. Um,
Wow, that's super nice of you. Thank you.
oh, 1 gazillion%. I've decided it is now my thing. And I think Harry, thank you so much. I'm hoping that by next conference, I've gathered enough sparkly shoe wearers that it'll be good. But anyways, because the amount of attention I got from my sparkly boots this year was so undeserved and like hilarious. It was like, hey, sparkle boots, let's talk. And I'm like, okay, sure. But anyways, um, on that note, I love putting systems in between me and what I want. And so familiar to, oh, it's in the audit. This is a thing. Same thing with like other people I've coached in the past, or not coached, but like subordinates I've had on the teams. Instead of saying, hey, show up to work on time, or Barbara, yes, I will also send you shoes in the mail. She's in the chat. Uh, Instead of saying like, hey, your performance is XYZ, I would say, hey, we've got this kind of employee scorecard. Here's like a systemic way we can both keep each other accountable to this thing. And so, same thing with these pricing breakouts. Instead of just shooting off a random price to a customer, it's easier to be like, here's the system I built. Let's assess what was wrong in the system, which comes from the industrial engineering background. But yeah, I think it's borderline manipulative. Anytime I want something, I just create a system so that I can point it at that. And it's like, it's not me. I'm not the one asking for this. It's that thing.
Yeah, it's like the Wizard of Oz strategy, I guess, if it had a name.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm the man
Yeah.
behind the curtain.
Yeah.
Um, I just watched Wicked, so I've got so much more lore to attach myself to now. Okay. Last buzzer beater, well, rather, do you have a most bizarre or unexpected moment in your business journey, or like most bizarre client interaction, or
Do I have a bizarre one?
there's a certain point in my career where everything is just kind of status quo. I'm like, I am so everything just feels expected, even though it's all crazy. Wicked was so good, Harry. I'm gonna watch
It
it 6 more
was.
times.
It
I
was.
could, I could,
Like, yeah, I'm happy there's a second one coming out, but I'm upset I have to wait for it because it's like, what's gonna happen?
yeah. Had you seen the like musical before this?
No, I completely missed it.
Same. And I'd heard like I'm a big fan of musicals and like soundtracks and all of that. And so I'd heard the songs for so many years. And whenever I listened to Defying Gravity, I thought it was like be with the wizard, like she wanted to like marry the wizard, like that was the man they were all fighting about, not knowing that Fiera was even a character, and then secondarily not knowing that the wizard, she like wanted to work with the wizard. I'm like, we missed that plot point until that moment. The whole movie, even when she was singing the wizard and I was like, I don't know, like I kind of seems old.
That's hilarious.
Okay. We have about 9 minutes left, which this is about the time that I'll kind of do some housekeeping at the end. But kind of last one is like any words of wisdom, or rather, not even words of wisdom. Is there any phrase or word you're attaching to this next year? Like this every year I've got kind of like a phrase. Last year was do cool shit, try new things, and this year is just like abundance. So in the year of abundance, do you have like a word or quote you're kind of attaching yourself to this year?
The thing I've been thinking about a lot, I think it's from Parks and Rec. Ron Swanson says, like, don't half-ass two things, use your whole ass on one thing. And I think that's kind of where I want to be at the end of this year is just, instead of being split in 100 different directions, just kind of paring it down to where I can use my whole ass.
I'm just like, like the like campaign posters, it's like Liana Garish, use your whole ass, and then your face like okay, brilliant. Thank you so much for taking the time to look over my tool. I'm gonna fool around with the feedback that I've gotten, push a little further, and then little housekeeping for everyone on the chat, everyone who watches this later. Essentially, if you want to get involved, I encourage you for Office Hours with Amber to submit your goals. I can send the form somewhere. Barbara said that the whole ass is a good quote. So you've got one vote of support. You've got two votes of support. Me too. I'm sure Harry is
Nice.
a third. Essentially, there's a Microsoft Forms where you can submit your goals. That will kind of ping me to send you an intro email, make sure you're on the Discord, get you a cute iPhone background to make sure that you have daily insight onto what you're trying to, focus on. And then we have a monthly Zoom call that I'm going to be scheduling for next Monday. I don't know if that's going to be live streamed because we'll have quite a few people. And I like having, I don't know, 50-50 on if it gets live streamed. If everyone doesn't want to do it, I'm good with that. I didn't realize it was that kind of stream. Harry's so funny. Anyways, many ways to get involved. I highly encourage everyone to join the Discord. I'm going to grab the link to that here in 1 second. I fully support people joining because one, you get access to all the delicious people in the Excelopolis chat, and they're so wickedly brilliant. And you can ask any question and someone's got an answer. Putting that in the chat now to the Discord. And additionally, if you're interested in Excel ladies, obviously reach out to Liana Garish. And I don't have any other thoughts in my brain. Got anything, Liana?
I think one thing I was thinking of is, I don't know if you know Celia Alves's content on dynamic list dropdowns, but she's invented a lot of the methods for using dynamic arrays in data validation. And so she maybe has solved some of your problems, and it could be worth reaching out to her.
Oh, 1 gazillion%. She's always liking everyone's comments and reposting things on LinkedIn. So I feel like she's very open to chit-chatting.
Yeah, she's awesome.
That's wicked. Okay, I'm opening 17 YouTube videos from her right now. Perfect. Okay, what else you got? If
Just
anything.
question for people in the chat. If you wrote a case for this week's MEWC, can you maybe give us a little preview? Just
On
between us?
honestly, I think he's going to use Office Hours with Amber as I feel like he's been showing up pretty frequently, and I think that we're going to be inspiration for the case. But yeah, that would be nice if someone who could be sure.
Oh, we've got something. Wizard of Oz de Soleil.
I
That's a
now
good
what?
hint. Flying Lana monkeys.
Oh yeah, bringing the whole like lore all back together into one place, and then like off there's Bear Island.
Yeah, I think we got our hint. Thanks, Harry.
Brilliant. But yeah, oh, separate thing is that's the if you guys pending in the chat want to get involved in the Microsoft Excel World Championship, Battle 1 is on Thursday, I think at like 5 p.m. London time, which is 11 a.m. Eastern, maybe. But on the FMWC website, sign up for that. And I highly encourage anyone who's like, I don't know enough about Excel. That's the point. Because then, much like Rate My Excel, you get to kind of compare yourself and stack yourself up against other professionals. And so, post this before you're Harry, sure you did. I imagine you let it slip willingly. If I had to give a hint, it would be ... He's creating suspense. But yes, I encourage anyone to get involved with the MEWC. And then I'm also thinking about, obviously, the case one for Financial Modeling World Cup has already passed, but loses connection. Rude. It's already passed, but even hearing that Helen was going to start, even though she has like little or less financial modeling experience, I'm like, you know what? I should just do it. Like, I need to live by my ideals here. So,
Yeah, did you do it? Did you do it?
no, 0%. I was spent all day doing this tool to like, I literally got to work and I was like, nobody talk to me. I need to have something to talk about at the thing tonight, which I didn't realize. If you really think about it, I gave myself like 2/3 of the month to do like 1 week of the month to do the bulk of the work, which was silly on my part. So the nice thing is over the next week and a half, I can continue, but really didn't set that up. Like this is a case study to understand that I did not set it up well. I digress. We're past it. But I'm going to be going to the Discord chit chat chamber for after hours. So there's office hours and then after hours, super cute. So anyone who wants to join me there, I'll be sitting there probably working on this tool. So Liana, thank you so much for joining. Appreciate more than you know. So on that, I'll probably end.